Why, hello there. We are in the Book Nook. I'm Sin, and today we are going to talk about my past, present, and future of books, what I've recently finished, what I'm in the middle of, and what we're going to get into. So, let me tell you about it. So, first up, we have a cozy bookmobile cat mystery, and this is by an author that's actually from Michigan, which is where I'm also from. And so it's kind of exciting when I find more authors from Michigan because I'm like, Josh Mallerman, that's all I know. I know there's other authors. My friend John Tenney's written some books, he's from Michigan. And so now another one to add to that list. I know there's a lot more, I don't know of them off the top of my head. Philip Fracassi used to be from Michigan, also one of my favorite authors. All right, I got so sidetracked with all of that. So Lori Cass, this is called No Paw to Stand On. This is the 12th book in this series, and I have not read any of the other ones. And I didn't feel like I needed to with this. I think that like this series, you could just jump in wherever, and it would matter only a little bit. I'm gonna guess that you would get a little more backstory on how she ended up with the main character, Minnie at least, how she ended up with her fiance in this book. And it was just a fun, cute, cozy murder mystery. What I love about it is there's this cat in it. His name's Eddie. And that, you know, as most cat owners or dog owners, you talk to your pets. If you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. I wake up, I'm like, hey, Mittens, what are we doing today? You know, and he's like, meow. And I'm like, I know. It is raining outside today. We should just stay in all day and read books. And he's like, all right, meow. And then I'm like, yeah, we'll snug under the covers too. It'll be a good time. So, you know, and the cat does dumb cat things, like she has them zooming around, and when she's making her like theories about who could possibly have, it's a murder mystery, so who could possibly have killed the person in the book, she throws her theories out to Eddie the cat, and Eddie's always like, meow. And it's super cute. So it takes place in Michigan, in a town that is kind of like in the middle of the mitten. It's called Chilson, Michigan. I've never been there, but they talk about that town, and then there's like, they mention other cities that I have actually been to in it, like Petoskey and Traverse City and whatnot. So I thought that's kind of cool, like having familiar places that are mentioned in a book and whatnot. So it follows a story of, there's this woman, Minnie, and she works for the library. She's a librarian, and she also helps run their bookmobile. And she has this friend, Kristen. Kristen owns this fancy restaurant, and it's called the Three Seasons. And what happens is, like, 8 customers end up getting, like, poisoned. She had these ice cream cones that were gluten-free, but someone snuck like this stuff called, I forget what it's called, it's like Tricticalin or something weird that was not gluten-free, and it sent 2 people to the hospital, and then the other people were like super ill. And then the town starts getting this rash of like really bad, someone's review bombing all these different restaurants in the area. And then there starts being like weird vandalism at the library. Someone ends up murdered. And so Minnie kind of like takes it on herself to kind of figure out what the F is going on. And she wants to help save her best friend's restaurant too. Oh, also, she's supposed to be getting married, and the officiant to her wedding is no longer going to be able to officiate it. So she has to find a person to marry them while she's doing all this stuff too. And her fiance's like, oh, my buddy, the DJ Tank, who's DJing or whatever, he can just marry us too. And they're like, no one named Tank is going to actually marry us. I'm like, who cares? Just let Tank marry you. But, you know, does that happen? I don't know. You'll have to read the book to find out. It's super cute and cozy. I loved it. I want to read more of these books. I flew through it. And I love that there is a cat in it, because I like to read books that have cats in them. Or animals in general. It's just cute. All right, so now what we're in the middle of, I have embarked on another Sarah Addison Allen book called The Girl Who Chased the Moon. This is recommended by Pamela here on YouTube. Once again, thank you, Pamela. I'm loving these books. I'm halfway through it. This one's a little shorty. It's not too long. It follows the story of this girl, Emily. She's a teenager. Her mom had passed away, and her mom never told her anything about her life, from like where she grew up, what happened there. And her mom was super big into like philanthropy, and she had this whole school she created for girls to empower them and do all this stuff and, you know, try to raise her right. Well, she goes back when her mom dies to live with her grandfather, who she didn't even know existed because her mom never talked about him or never talked about anything prior in her life before, and so she knows absolutely nothing. She goes back to this town, and apparently there's this big secret, and the town has a big problem with what her mother did, but she doesn't know what it is or why. And so people are kind of like not quite happy she's there and treating her very weirdly. No one's been like super, super mean yet, but apparently what she starts to find out is like her mom was a spoiled little crap bag and was kind of horrible when she was growing up. So she's dealing with this. And you also have this other woman, Julia, who ends up coming back to town, and she is in her 30s. I think she's like 36. Her father had passed away, and her plan had been to like come back, sell his stuff, and then move on. But when she finds out, he was like super in debt. His ex-wife had like drained and spent all his money, so he had like mortgages and bills up to his eyeballs. So she sold the house to pay off part of the mortgage of the restaurant. She figured she would work for a few years, get it back on his feet, pay off all this stuff, and then like get the F out of Dodge, go back to, I think it's Baltimore, or I can't remember if it's Baltimore or Boston. Well, one of those. She wants to go back, open up a bakery because she bakes amazing stuff. And someone from her life prior, when she lived there, this guy Sawyer, kind of comes back into her life. They had a weird past where when they were teenagers, they had hooked up. She was in love with him, got pregnant. He was dating someone else, and of course he was a typical teenage butthole and made her feel terrible, and a bunch of stuff happened. And so that's going on too in this book. So you have that, you got your drama and whatnot. And so far it is an addictive read, and I'm really loving this author. It's super cozy and it makes me want to eat cake every time they talk about all these delicious cakes that this woman makes, cakes and cookies and stuff. All right, so that's what I'm in the middle of. That's what I'm going to read more of tonight. Because I just also, prior to the cat one, I had also finished, I always read a few books at a time, you know, and I had finished The Deep by Nick Cutter. And I needed some more cozy stuff after reading some weird cosmic horror. Let's tell you, though, what we're going to get into. A couple things from the library, and let's show you what we got. Okay, so I honestly love Sylvia Moreno Garcia. We got The Seventh Veil of Salome. Do I know what it's about? No. Do I care? No, because I love this author. I've really enjoyed what I've read by her. The most recent one I read was Silver Nitrate, which I thought was awesome. It's like a horror film type book, and it was absolutely fantastic. I do have a standalone review for that. If you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. So let's tell you about The Seventh Veil of Salome. Is this a romance? It sure looks like it from the cover. Romance, horror romance. I'm a fan of the romances. I'm not like a huge romance reader, but I do like it when it's like in the genre, and I honestly find that I've been loving romance. I'm trying to say that with a serious face. Romance or romance. All right, so let's tell you about this. Ooh, yes. 1950s Hollywood, every actress wants to play Salome, the star-making role in a big-budget movie about the legendary woman whose story has inspired artists since ancient times. When the film's mercurial director cast Vera Larios, an unknown Mexican ingenue, in the lead role, she quickly becomes the talk of the town. Vera also becomes an object of envy for Nancy Hartley, a bit player whose career has stalled and who'll do anything to win the fame she believes she richly deserves. I bet she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't sound like she does. Just saying. Two actresses, both determined to make it to the top in the golden age of Hollywood. A city overflowing with gossip, scandal, and intrigue make for a sizzling combination. But this is the tale of three women, for it is also the story of the Princess Salome herself, consumed with desire for the fiery prophet who foretells the doom of her stepfather, Herod, a woman torn between decree of duty and the yearning of her heart. Before the curtain comes down, there will be tears and tragedy aplenty in this sexy Technicolor saga. I'm looking forward to this. Can't wait. Let's go, baby. So next we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. It's been a hot minute since I've read this author, and I needed to remedy that, so I saw this at the library, and I was like, yes, please, let's go. I also really need to read the Indian Lake trilogy by him. I know. I haven't read it yet. I'm gonna get to it. There are a lot of books I need to read. That one is definitely on my TBR that at some point in time I'll get to it. I don't know if it's gonna be this year. Maybe. We'll have to see. So let me tell you about I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. La Mesa, Texas, July 1989. It's the summer before senior year for best friends Tolly Driver and Amber Dennison. They're not in the marching band. They're not in the FFA. They don't really count. Amber's the only native student in town, and Tolly's only on the radar due to his father's recent death. This is all about to change. Bodies are going to be dropping fast in this small West Texas town for a few unbearably hot days that will resonate through the decades and even get made into a TV movie. Tolly and Amber will be famous, notorious even. Finally, everyone will know their names. This is Stephen Graham Jones x-raying the slasher genre, interrogating its motivations over the shoulder and in the voice of the killer itself. From a town he did some growing up in. In a year, he was also 17. The kills will be poignant, the jokes will hurt, and the violence will be endearing. Everything turned around for Tolly, for Amber, for all of La Mesa, Texas. Be happy you weren't there. Be happy you're only reading about it. Dun dun dun. And if you like 80s slashers, I have heard only good things about this so far, so super excited to read it. Okay, the next one. This book, I saw Mother Horror talking about it. It is a Gothic fiction, and that is The Woman in the Mirror by Rebecca James. Now, what is it about, you ask? Well, let me tell you, because I don't know either. I will blindly read recommendations by Mother Horror. I'm like, oh, she honestly has the best recs. If you're not following her on Instagram, you should be. That's where I see most of her stuff. So I'll put her link down below if you want to check her out. But let's tell you about this book. For more than 2 centuries, Winterbourne Hall has stood atop a bluff overlooking the English countryside of Cornwall and the sea beyond. Enshrouded by fog and enveloped by howling winds, the imposing edifice cast a darkness over the town. In 1947, Londoner Alice Miller accepts a post as governess at Winterbourne, looking after twin children, Constance and Edmund, for their widower father, Captain Jonathan de Grey. Falling under the de Grey's spell, Alice believes the family will heal her own past sorrows. But then, the twins' adoration becomes deceitful and taunting. Their father, ever distant, turns spiteful and cruel. The manor itself seems to lash out. Alice finds her surroundings subtly altered, her air slightly chilled. Something malicious resents her presence, something clouding her senses and threatening her very sanity. In present-day New York, art gallery curator Rachel Wright has learned she is a descendant of the de Greys and heir to the Winterbourne. Adopted as an infant, she never knew her birth parents or her lineage. At long last, Rachel will find answers to questions about her identity that have haunted her entire life. But what she finds in Cornwall is a devastating, tragic legacy that has afflicted generations of de Greys, a legacy born from greed and deceit, twisted by madness, suffused with unrequited love and unequivocal rage. There is only one true mistress of Winterbourne. She will not tolerate any woman who dares to cross its threshold and call it home. Those who do will find only a reflection of their own wicked sins and an inherited vengeance. Dun dun dun. It sounds so atmospheric and moody. I love it. I think that's what I like most about Gothic fiction. It's just, it creates such an atmosphere that kind of like wraps you up in it. And I love that. I love that. I love the moodiness of that. I think it's fantastic. So I'm super excited about these upcoming reads. I think they're all going to be really great. I'm looking forward to them. Two of the authors I know I like, and I trust Mother Horror. She has yet to steer me wrong. So, do you guys like Gothic fiction? And if so, do you have any favorites that you would recommend? If you do, let me know down below in the comments, because I'm always looking for more Gothic fiction. So if you like videos where I talk about multiple things that I have read or am reading, the next video coming up will be about that. So stick around, check it out. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.